Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the huddle. It's Thursday, Friday -1. We're almost there, guys. For all you who are concerned about this war or incursion in Iran sort of dragging out for months, you might have some good news this morning. The president has been telling his advisors that he thinks it's time to wrap up, that their mission is nearly finished, and he's apparently worried that this is starting to overshadow his domestic agenda. Now, clearly someone in the West Wing wanted this story out. It was in the Wall Street Journal. We're going to talk about it today. I'm skeptical. I do wonder if this is a head fake before some sort of escalation, but we'll get there at some point. Now, this conversation about pivoting and potentially wrapping things up, it doesn't come at a sort of moment too soon right now. There are a bunch of Hill Republicans who are starting to express concern, and not just the typical gadfly Republicans who criticize the president on the Hill. We're talking about chairmen, people who are with the president, who encouraged him and like what he's doing in Iran. They have some concerns and they're starting to voice them. So that's not a good sign. There's also some new polling out in Fox News that we're going to talk about here in the show. President's not going to like those numbers either. Plus, Senate Republicans who have been privately regretting their vote to confirm RFK. They're kind of seeking revenge right now, not against him, but against one of his top allies, and basically trying to stop a confirmation process going through the Senate right now. So we'll discuss that as well. But before we jump in, I just heard a Sean cough. You haven't heard from me today. Dan, where should we be going online to get some medicine right now?
Wow, my goodness. If people don't know by now, you should be going to allfamilypharmacy.com/huddle, because as we always say, there's nothing worse than having to go down to the pharmacy, wait in line. Sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes the line is very long. I can say here in New York City, if you go during lunch hour, or if you go or between, let's say, 6 and 8 p.m., you might as well wear very comfortable shoes, bring something to read, because you're going to be there for a while waiting in line at most Dwayne Reed's and CVS. But you would not have that problem if you go to All Family Pharmacy. In fact, you can spend your time thinking of, what am I going to do with my free time now? You go, you fill out a short medical form, a licensed doctor reviews your request, and if appropriate, provides the prescription. Then your order ships directly to your door. You can stock up on essentials to get ahead of the curve. Or if, like Rachael or Sean, you just happen to come down with something, you want that, you don't want to have to wait days and days. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/huddle and use the code HUDDLE10 to get 10% off your order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/huddle and use the code HUDDLE10.
Awesome. Thanks to All Family Pharmacy. So let's look at the daybook here. It's Cheek Cherry Blossom Day, which Dan, the New Yorker,
I'm excited in New York
two DC natives today.
Yep. I always love the cherry blossoms. It's just one of those like things in DC that makes you smile. They're gorgeous. And when I used to run on the mall at 5:30 in the morning, there were this time of year, you just looked at it. I don't have pollen allergies, so it didn't bother me, but they're gorgeous. If you ever get a chance, go see them.
And if you're a native, yes, they're beautiful, but the traffic is not fun to get through. I will probably be avoiding that area today. Sean, are you going to go?
I don't go. I drive by. I mean, okay. Like I treat cherry blossoms like Smithsonian's. I drive by, I look, I go, box checked. I don't ever stop and watch. I was in an Uber leaving town the other day, and I literally just shot photos. I'll post them on social media, but that's as much. I don't want to see a bunch of people and gawking and whatever. So I take my photos from the Uber as I drive by. They're pretty. It's just as much. I'm not sure that I need to spend that much time staring at a tree. So.
Yeah. And dodging a bunch of tourists, but there's that.
And then taking photos in front of it, because it's like wedding, it's engagement photos. And now with social media, it is a thing to photograph in front of those things.
There you go. Well, I recommend, if you are going to go, well, you should have already gone. You should have gone at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. before the crowds, but maybe go tomorrow. Okay. Back on Capitol Hill, the House Ethics Committee is going to start a public trial against Congressman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick. So this is a Florida Democrat who has been accused of embezzling millions of FEMA dollars. This is the first trial that this committee has had in 16 years. The thing is, usually lawmakers resign before it gets to this point. And, a lot of Democrats they're not weighing in on this. Democratic leadership is not weighing in on it. Dan, is there a political liability here for not throwing her under the bus right now?
Well, this is the thing. So the stock line from leadership is everyone is entitled to self-defense, and they're innocent
except George Santos.
Yes, I was going to say George Santos. Hello.
I think the problem with this is that has always been, for the last 100 years, the standard answer. But as we saw with George Santos, in the era of social media, you just can't escape this stuff anymore. You can't, it used to just be, it would be in roll call in the Washington Post, and nobody at home really knew about it. Now it's everywhere. I think you are likely, depending on what the ethics committee says, to see a lot of Democrats come out immediately saying she needs to resign. It's going to put the Congressional Black Caucus in a predicament, Hakeem in a predicament. But I don't see how you can continue to defend, because Hakeem has told people they're going to wait until it goes to trial in April, which would just mean more and more of this remaining in the headlines.
Dragging out. Sean, do you think, Democrats were the ones who started banging the drum on George Santos, and eventually they did get some Republicans to support ousting him.
A lot of Republicans.
Yeah,
right. Totally. I was going to say, but should Republicans serve up just desserts here? Or is that just a distraction in the midterm?
No, absolutely. Look, first of all, this isn't like $10. She stole millions of dollars. The court isn't, this isn't the beginning. She's already, we're well into the proceedings here. The evidence is overwhelming on this fact. Right. She funneled the money. She used it for her own purposes.
Allegedly. Just want to be careful.
No, I don't.
Fair enough, Dan.
Yes,
I appreciate that, Counselor.
Yes.
So, look, here's the thing. I will say that all politics, look, it's a slim majority. They're going to play the games. I get what they're doing. No one cares anymore. That's the sad part, meaning that, like the SAVE Act, no one's pounding the drum to get rid of this person. And when George Santos was in the barrel, it was a relatively low in the news cycle. So that's what everybody paid attention to. But considering the magnitude of what George Santos did, right, versus what this woman allegedly did, it's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and massive watermelons. It's huge. And so I love the fact that these guys are saying she deserves, they didn't care what that George Santos got no day in court. And I'm not defending that guy. We
should call him and get him on the phone during this show. And
I don't want
his take.
I don't want his take. And he's pretty much of a known liar. So I don't really care. But I just find it, again, this is the irony of this whole thing. We do a horrible job as Republicans. We always take this higher level. You got to show, and then they don't do it themselves. I think it was dumb that we did it to Santos for exactly this reason.
Okay, let's keep going with our day book. So 10 o'clock, the president's going to have a cabinet meeting. I'm sure they hope this will be opened up with reporters. Lots to talk about Iran and how great everything is going. 11 o'clock. Oh, the president's going to love this one. Nicolas Maduro and his wife appear before a U.S. district judge. Is he going to be in a jumpsuit? Because the image, I assume, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, Republicans are just going to eat that up. 4 o'clock.
Either that or they're going to start crying, because then they have to talk about Iran. If there was no Iran, this would have been a great day for them.
Yeah. 4 o'clock, the president delivers remarks at the Greek Independence Day celebration at the White House. And
Obviously.
5:45.
Oh, I listen, by the way, side note,
sure.
This is bigger than Reince Priebus's birthday. He will be he is the US, he might as well be the Greek ambassador to the US. This is it's not as big as Ireland's Day, let's be honest. That's totally different. St. Patrick's Day, but it's nice for the Greeks to get a little attention.
Do you guys like Greek food?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I love a good gyro.
I'm not a big fan of it.
Oh my gosh, I can just eat
Okay.
Greek food. Yes. 5:45, President Trump has a signing time. We're going to do one more word about Cozy Earth. Let's just do that here, because I was doing that segment anyway. Cozy Earth, how are your pajamas, Sean, before we jump in?
So I realized last night I'm going to be traveling a little for Easter. And I we talked about this before, and I was like, I knew I made the right decision when I ordered both the bamboo pajamas, the spring ones, and then the first layer, because now I don't have to choose. I can put one right now as I pack because I'm getting ahead of my packing. Number two, I saw this morning that Cozy Earth has a great line of women's wear. There's a blueberry print one and another. I mean, like, and they're selling fast. So if it's not for you and you're looking for, you got a birthday, an Easter gift, something coming up, they've got everything for everyone. And I'm telling you, like, I even looked at some of the designs. My wife's birthday was last week, so I already took care of that. But I'm just telling you, Cozy Earth, for yourself, for your friends, for your coworkers, you cannot go wrong. Go to CozyEarth.com, use code HUDDLE for 20% off, and you will love it. Like I said, I am now finding more and more pieces of my wardrobe, whether it's the joggers, the pants, the eye mask, the sheets, the towel. It's like, I'm becoming Mr. Cozy Earth, and I'm proud of it. So go to CozyEarth.com, use code HUDDLE for 20%
Awesome.
off.
Thanks to Cozy Earth and All Family Pharmacy. Guys, very quickly before we jump in, if you haven't already, go to our YouTube page at the DC Huddle, subscribe, help us get our numbers up, send it to a friend. It's free.
Or 5.
Or 5. Ooh, I like that. Why stop at 5, Sean? Let's go to 10. Or maybe we shouldn't get greedy. Okay, guys, let's jump in here. Iran, start here. Is this the beginning of the end? So President Trump, according to reporting in the Wall Street Journal this morning, has told associates that he wants this conflict to be coming to an end soon. He thinks this is the final stages. He wants to stick to 4 to 6 weeks with that timeline that they initially set out. He's starting to fear that this is distracting from his domestic agenda. He's thinking about the midterms. And there's also this nugget in the story that he's concerned that ground troops will increase casualties, which almost certainly will be the case. So far, we've had more than a dozen U.S. soldiers die, more than 300 wounded. But obviously, there's a challenge here because there's no easy option to just end this war, right? Peace negotiations, they take time, and we're not even to the point of actually having those talks yet, because we talked yesterday about Iran just totally, telling us essentially to shove it with their counteroffer to the United States before sitting down. And then if that doesn't happen, we could see ground troops go in, which would be an escalation and again, potentially take longer. So let's just start with that, Sean. What is the quickest end game here? The president wants to get out. What is the quickest end game?
Well, just to make sure we're all clear, because it's not just get out. There's a story that popped in Axios just a few minutes ago talking about a massive final blow. I think there's no way you end it without something of that nature. You got to go in, completely decimate every potential asset they have. Number one, to ensure that they don't do anything, and B, to kind of cripple their capabilities and make them understand that it's full capitulation at this point. We can see from their responses to the talks that are happening, FYI, that they're not going to just give up. So I think that the only way that occurs is to literally take them into a full annihilation and capitulation, where they recognize that there is no way forward and that the Iranian people see that. So I think that you're going to see, I would, get ahead of our Friday. What are we watching for this weekend? I think a full on bombing campaign is coming their way.
No, Dan, I know that the president, in terms of this Wall Street Journal story, he is hearing people are concerned about this. Republicans are starting to speak up, which we'll get to in a minute. So I can understand why the White House would want this out, that either there's this big final blow coming or we're wrapping things up. But at the other hand, doesn't this almost undermine his own negotiating posture? I mean, he wants a deal, but if it's out there that he really wants a deal, Iran, I would think would just, I guess maybe they're just going to double down anyway.
Well, this is the interesting thing. Look, I think this whole week has been about trying to turn the tide of public opinion in the United States, try to turn the tide on the markets, trying to tell MAGA, hey, just hold in there, trying to tell, everyone focused on the midterms, hey, just hang in there, right? We're starting to wrap this up. I know everyone is going to kind of explode about this, but it really sounds like we initiated talks. We said through intermediaries, hey, we want to talk. And I think now, the fact the White House is so obsessed with the Iranians are begging us, they're begging us. I don't know about that. I mean, again, it could be true, but it certainly is out of the Trump playbook to try to create this frame of the end is near. They're really desperate. They really want to talk to us. I think the counter to this is what you just said, which is I think most people now believe that we want to end this soon. I agree with Sean. I think there's going to be one big final push. It is probably ground troops. And I think they're getting ahead of this by saying, hey, look, this is only going to last a little bit. Now, of course, you can't guarantee that. You hope it only lasts a little bit, but once you go in, you're in. So I think if you look at the Middle East, there's multiple stories. The Israelis are super nervous that we're going to get out very soon with an incomplete job. And now you're seeing that the Saudis, UAE, Bahrain, Iraq, they all worry that we are going to get out. The regime is going to remain in place, even though the top has been decimated. They'll just fill the new ranks. And the lesson Iran is going to take away is, one, we survived. Two, we are going to be hell-bent on rebuilding as fast as humanly possible for a deterrent. And three, they're going to seek revenge in the neighborhood. So I will be really curious because Sean said, obliterate, wipe out. We're going to see if they can do it because that is ground troops on the ground.
So
I was
overnight,
Sean,
overnight we killed the Israelis killed the head of the Navy, who's been orchestrating all these Strait of Hormuz tactics. Again, it's a little bit of what that does, gives us some relief there, but it also continues to send the signal. If you are in leadership, you will be killed, right? And I think that's starting to weigh on a lot of these folks, which is you step up, put your hand up in a leadership position in Iran, and we're going to hunt you down. I think at some point, everybody gets that message. And there's only so much you can, there's so much attrition. Yes, they're disparate in their org chart, but I think that it's at some point you get rid of all. I mean, we can keep going. And the Israeli intelligence is
but are we? I mean, that's the $1 million question.
Here's a question. I mean, there seems to be, and I feel like I've read this in the journal. I've read reporters write this in the journal and also Axios, this notion that we cannot pull back without getting the Strait of Hormuz completely reopened. What is that? Do you agree with that, Sean? Or because if there's, say they're doing one final big boom, okay, what if the Strait is still a problem?
I don't think that. I mean, again, I think that's part of what the big boom is to take out to shell a lot of the shore where their assets are, not just the state actors, but the non-state actors, to take out Houthi assets as well, basically bomb up and down the coast of the Strait of Hormuz, taking out all of their ability to shoot stuff off, hopefully go after some drone factories and some drone launching sites. But I think that's part of it.
Just a reminder, folks, that, the White House since last fall really has tried to get the president sort of focused domestically, right? Then we had Venezuela, then it was refocused domestically, then there was the Greenland spat, and then it was, okay, we're going to refocus domestically. Now we have Iran. They're talking about refocusing domestically, but don't forget Cuba is still out there. So it'll be interesting to see after this wraps up if we're talking about Cuba in July.
Let me ask, do you guys think we're still in at Memorial Day?
Yes. Not the way we are now, but we will have a presence there.
On the ground?
No.
Okay.
Not anything more than a footprint, like advisors and maybe some special operators.
I agree with Sean because it's clear the president wants to be done with this. They're seeing the political ramifications back home and they want to be done with this. But even with this final blow, what if Iran, they find a way to start taking out ships in the Strait of Hormuz? Then we're going to be pulled back. And I don't know. It just seems like the mess could continue for a little bit. So, all right, let's talk about what's going on with this on Capitol Hill. So there's a number of stories right now about anxious Republicans. We're starting to see Republicans send these sort of warning shots. And again, not typical critics, like Thomas Massie. We're talking about Republicans who support what the president is doing in Iran, but they want answers. People like Mike Rogers, who is the chair of the House Armed Services Committee from Alabama. He's a big Trump ally. He emerged from this briefing yesterday about the war and said, we want to know more about what's going on, what the options are, and why they're being considered. He expressed needing additional information about troops on the ground. Apparently, the administration did not give a lot of details about timeline, scope, and troops. And he's not the only one. Roger Wicker, the Senate Armed Services Committee, basically said, I understand why Mike Rogers is saying this publicly. You have one Republican lawmaker, it's a blind quote, Burgess Everett from Semaphore. He's a fantastic reporter, quoting this lawmaker saying that it's turning into a, quote, effing cluster F. There was a lot of superficial thinking that went into this operation. This Republican is complaining and not a lot of clarity about where it's going. So, Sean, the White House has been pretty dismissive of the Hill when it comes to their concerns on this. They believe they have, the power. They're the ones in charge. But at some point, this sort of stuff starts to turn heads and become, lead headlines. So, like, if you're losing your own guys, like, how big of a concern is this for the White House?
It's like looking after someone getting a fever. You keep an eye on it, right? And I say that because a couple anonymous quotes from rank and file guys and some concern is worth noting. Hey, we got to, maybe we need to sharpen some stuff, address it. But until it starts to build a little bit more, look, these guys are up for re-election. And the folks that are in tough districts, I think get, a little nervous anytime the wind blows the wrong way. So we have a tight majority. There's a bunch of people who are worried about their own skin. And I think anything that's not positive gets them worried. But I'm not that concerned at this point yet. It's worth keeping an eye on, but I'm not there yet.
I was going to say, Mike Rogers is not exactly in a swingy district. He's about as Republican as you come. And there he is out there expressing concern.
But I think it's also to some degree that this is like a public, like you're communicating to the president through, in many cases, through stuff like that. You're trying to say, I've said it privately. I'm not getting anything through. Maybe not everybody, gets an audience with the president. And so I think sometimes members use the media as their means. That it's basically like their phone call. I want to let them know that I've got some problems. I've expressed it to staff. I think it's falling on deaf ears. So I'm going to say it to sort of shoot something across the bow.
Dan, how are Democrats going to utilize this? I mean, you have people, Nancy Mace, she's criticized the White House on Epstein, so she's not exactly a rare, it's not exactly rare for her to speak out, but she was saying after she walked out of this briefing, let me repeat, I will not support ground troops in Iran. There are a lot of frontliners, as Sean was just mentioning, who are expressing concern that they don't want to get embroiled, and they're worried that troops on the ground will do that and sort of drag things out. How do Democrats take this and sort of use it to their benefit?
Oversight and accountability. They're going to say, if we had the gavels, they would not be able to get away with this more, right? Because it's one thing to have a private briefing, okay, appropriate depending on the level of detail. But as is the case so often, where are the public hearings? Where is Pete Hegseth having to come up, or deputies, to talk about our kind of overall view of the region, to talk about kind of what we're trying to achieve? Of course, they don't want to come up and talk. And Republicans don't want to call the hearings because they don't want to press the administration. So if you're us, you simply say, this is just another example that the majority will not hold this president accountable and provide the proper oversight that we, Congress, the appropriators, are supposed to provide. It's that simple.
So it's actually not just Iran when it comes to, Hill Republicans starting to get a little anxious here. They have been, we've talked about it on the show, they've been upset about this pressure campaign to pass the Save America Act. A lot of them getting a lot of angry phone calls. You could say boo-hoo, it's your job and you answer to your constituents, but nonetheless, they didn't like it. And now some Republicans are griping privately about the president not coming out and fully endorsing this sort of DHS deal that they floated earlier this week to carve out. And I know, Sean, you hate that idea, right? It's terrible precedent.
No, everybody should hate it. It's a horrible deal.
Totally. I understand it's going to totally change, how appropriations is done from here on out. But the point is, like, what can the White House do right now to buy some goodwill with these guys? Because, I mean, you mentioned this is a fever, okay? Or you're keeping watch of a fever. It's not, a red fire alarm right now, a blaring red fire alarm. But, like, there is an issue. Like, what are some things the White House can do to sort of calm the temperatures here with Hill Republicans?
Oh, are you asking me or Dan?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Sean.
Oh, okay. So let me. I'm looking. I'm sorry. I thought I was waiting for Dan, and I want to read you something. This is what I don't get. I mentioned it yesterday and the day before about the messaging on this, and Dan's absolutely right. Like, we're not, like, they don't feel any pain, any issues because we're not out there putting them on the thing. The acting administrator of TSA yesterday testified in front of the Homeland Committee. And let me read you a portion of her testimony. The transportation sector remains a top target for our enemies and terrorists. all while passenger volumes are reaching record highs. A lack of funding and predictably of resources poses significant challenges to our ability to deliver transportation security with the level of excellence that we expect. She goes on, TSA employees have already worked 87 days without getting paid in FY26. And by this Friday, March 27th, we will be nearly at $1 billion in payroll that has not been paid in a timely manner. During the 43-day government shutdown in October and November 2025, 1,110 TSOs, Transportation Service Officers, the TSA agents, separated from TSA. Since Tuesday, March 24th, TSA has already lost 460 TSO officers. We have FIFA coming up. We have America 250 coming up. We are potentially going to get a ton of people coming into this country and traveling. And this is not going to just pop back up and get replaced. Republicans are derelict in their duty by not highlighting this. I got so many texts yesterday saying, I've been making this case privately on the Hill. I've been telling my boss this. I've been telling DOT this. The acting administrators laying the case out there about the dangers that our country is facing. And no one's making that case except for one hearing at the Homeland Security Committee. I'm astounded. When I was at the House Republican Conference, we would get pounded for not doing enough of these kind of events. I haven't seen a single one. Where are they at DCA, standing in front of Ronald Reagan saying, this lapse in security is on them? Nowhere. And Republicans have themselves to blame that this message is not getting through.
Well, I think the Republicans have Donald Trump to blame because he doesn't care.
No.
Politically, he does not yet care. And the problem Republicans have is they know the playbook, which is if they put all this effort in, they try to solve it. Trump sits there like a critic in the back row and will kind of take his temperature of MAGA and then just throw grenades at it if they don't like it. So Republicans have seen this movie, right? And they say, you lead. You give us the cover. But he is neither giving them the offensive push in the back to do what Sean just did, nor the defensive cover. And I will say again, I think I've said it every day this week, our side is united. Their side is hopelessly divided. And the one person who can solve it does not want to get his hands dirty on this.
Look, I do think the president by far has the greatest megaphone, but I am so tired of hearing from members of the House and the Senate Republican Conference that Donald Trump needs to carry the water for everything. I asked members in Virginia, what are you guys doing to stop this effort? We'll talk about it later. Well, we're here waiting to hear from the White House. For God's sakes, guys, get your act together. Care about yourself. Care about your conference. I'm so tired of hearing our side saying it's all on Donald Trump's shoulders. They can do something. They have a job. They have a platform. It may not be as big as his, but the idea, these guys are so lazy. Everything comes down to Donald Trump's got to fix it. Donald Trump's got to do this. Get off your butt and do something yourself.
But Sean, here's the problem. Here's the problem. If they do, okay, let's say they follow your advice. They go out, they hustle, they're out there pounding the pavement, they're cutting deals, they're making trade-offs. And Trump, with one tweet, can almost end their careers.
Yeah, but
John is just talking about elevating it, trying to elevate that DHS.
He's not a team player,
but it's I get what you're saying, but that has it's not like this has to be an entire, like they can still go do this. When I was at the RNC and there was a shutdown, we had Reince Priebus walk down with a big check saying, "I will keep this." Remember when Obama shut down the World War II memorial, which there's nothing to shut down. It was
brilliant. Just say it. It was brilliant. Yep.
No, it was actually to put tape around a memorial that you don't need to staff was just vindictive. And it was
he was putting the pressure on.
But it backfired. Okay, my point was the idea that people said there were honor flights coming in of World War II veterans that the only thing they wanted to do was see that memorial before they died, and Obama's vindictiveness prevented them from actually going up to a monument.
I don't know.
Where are Republicans with the damn tactics this time?
That's a long time ago. I just want to say, a couple of things. It's so funny because the question, Sean, I asked you was like, what can the White House do to build goodwill with upset Hill Republicans? And you're like, they're lazy. They need to get off their job. So, okay, maybe a lot of people are upset with them, and there's not an easy answer to that. Just
but it goes to our next topic. Yeah.
Well, can I also one other thing I want to mention, and that is I have talked to very senior Republicans in leadership who admit that their messaging is crap. Like that, it's just been crap in general. The past couple of years, like the big beautiful bill. Like, I mean, like just haven't sold their wins, haven't done a good job at messaging. So like it is a problem. Like literally, I talked to someone who said to me that they're thinking about leaving their job because it's such a mess and Republicans can't seem to get their crap together. I won't say the other word, but anyway, so you have a point on that, and it sounds like some of them know, but like they just haven't fixed the problem. So anyway, okay, let's go on to other Trump headaches, and that is this new Fox News polling. Okay, so the president's disapproval rating is at the highest it has ever been in this poll, in either term, we should say. 41% approve, 59% disapprove, 75% disapproval with independents. Obviously not great for the midterms in terms of Republicans trying to keep their majorities. And just for context right now, so last month, his approval was at 43%, disapproval was at 57%, so slightly better. But a year ago, he was at 49% approval and 51% disapproval. Now, obviously, when you're reelected to office, like, you know, your political capital is sky high, often has nowhere to go except but down. But Republicans have to be looking at this and they have to be concerned, right? Because often in the midterms, Sean, you know, the ability to keep the majority is tied to how the president's numbers are doing. How are Republicans feeling about these numbers?
I think, well, we talked a little bit about the bedwetting a minute ago. Look, I will say that one race or two is you can explain away. There's a pattern. You look at Senate District 9 in Texas. You look at this Mar-a-Lago district. There's another district as well. Look, I do think I would be concerned. A lot of these districts and a lot of this coalition that Donald Trump brought to the fight last time, young men, blacks, Hispanics, moms that came in through the MAGA movement, they are finicky. They are veterans that say, what have you done for me lately? The MAGA movement's 100%. I mean, the MAGA movement is 100% behind Donald Trump. I mean, it's even harder than it's ever been, I believe. Like, it's more committed. But, you know, the periphery voter who's like, I like what he's doing. I like his policies. Look, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Donald Trump did an amazing job in 2024, getting out there and going where voters were. Theo Vaughn, Nelk Boys, Joe Rogan, Patrick Bet-David, Sean Spicer's show, went to a lot of places and he met voters where they were and talked about issues. I think it was one of the best playbooks that will be studied forever about how to go the new traditional way to campaign, meeting voters where they are, independent media, etc. It's almost like we abandoned the playbook, though.
I was going to say, I haven't seen that in a really long time.
Not just with Trump, though, that this gets back to the team. Virginia candidates last time didn't do crap with this, right? Everybody looked in awe of what Donald Trump did and then said, oh, okay, move on. Like,
do you think Theo Vaughn wants to interview Speaker Johnson, though?
Like, well, I think there's two problems with that, which is he went where they were and he spoke on what they cared about. The problem the White House has is what they're speaking on isn't popular and is not a top issue for Americans. I go back to, if we walk down any street in the country in December and said, what are the 5 things that you worry about the most? Iran would not have been in the top 5, nor would Venezuela, nor would any of these foreign policy things that we keep hearing over and over and over. Well, in some districts, the SAFE Act, but amongst swing voters. So the problem they have is I always say this, MAGA is not enough to win swing states. It's enough to win in, Alabama and let's say maybe, I don't know, Sean, 15, 20 states. You can do a pure base play and you're going to still win. But between the hemorrhaging of independents, 25%, I think Latinos, he's down to 24%.
It's
Hello,
28%, I think.
Okay, 20, pardon, 28%.
But down from 48%.
Which, by the way, is still better than almost any other Republicans ever done. So,
but I mean, here's your problem. Hello, Florida, Georgia, Texas,
It's a 20-point drop since December. 20-point drop.
Okay.
So
Dan,
no, but I mean, look, here's your problem, which is I think even if Trump were on the ballot, I'd be extraordinarily nervous right now. With him not on the ballot, this is where all the agita on the Hill, at what point do people start saying, I'm going down no matter what, I'm going down kissing the ring, I'm going to start attempting. Now, it never works, but people make these decisions all the time. It is a huge set of problems for them.
Okay, so let me walk back Dan's argument. I agree. If you walk down the street, to Dan's case, you're not going to get a ton of people are saying, yeah, I voted to go into Iran. I'll give you that. Yep. But they did vote for lowering prescription prices. They did vote to secure the border. They did vote for lower taxes. President Trump has a massive record. In fact, when you go back, and part of the reason I wrote the book, Trump 2.0, and part of the reason that I thought the State of the Union was so good is he has a massive record, frankly, because they go so quickly. So here's the point, Dan. Part of what I'm saying is go to these places and start selling what you've done. He has a massive record of achievement on issues people do care about. All the stuff that he's done on the Trump accounts, all of these things, boom, boom, boom. Honestly, the Trump accounts alone and prescription drugs, what he has done on Trump RX are massive ways to go to voters and talk about how you're making their lives more affordable, addressing issues that are at the forefront of their lives. So I believe that part of the problem is many voters just don't know we're going so quick, as Peter Navarro likes to say, at Trump time. And we need to pause, go out there and sell what we've already done. There's plenty in the Trump agenda, plenty that I think voters love if they knew more about it. And that's why what I'm arguing is go out there and sell what you've already done. I don't think you need to lead with Iran. I agree with you on that, but you can lead with a lot of the other accomplishments that he's done and delivered for the American people.
Sounds like the Biden team.
Sean
no, actually, because the Biden team didn't have any of the deliverables.
Well, I mean that they would say that's just not true. But I mean, I hear you.
I just named name one Biden accomplishment.
Oh God, I mean they passed. I don't know how many times. Yeah, I mean, look, Sean, here's the problem.
No. Just name one.
No, Sean, I'm not going to get into all the things that they passed, but here's the challenge, right? Which is, you're right, voters don't know about it. And in fact, what voters do know about it, they don't like. So that is the problem. Well, you are trying to turn a Titanic right now.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about RFK's headaches. Totally different topic here. So Republicans on the Hill, they're not going to say this out loud, but let's be clear. They are extracting revenge against RFK, who a lot of them felt pressured to vote for, to confirm him. They didn't want to, and they don't like some of the things he's done with vaccines. So right now they are taking it out on the nomination of his ally in this sort of MAGA heavyweight, Casey Means, who is supposed to be Surgeon General, but apparently does not have the votes, the Republican votes, to advance out of the Health Committee, let alone on the floor. Sean, the White House hasn't dropped her nomination yet, and MAGA allies are encouraging people to start calling their senators to get her nomination moving. But there can obviously be some blowback with these types who don't like the pressure. I know you might say, boo-hoo, that's your job to hear from your constituents, but that can actually backfire sometimes. So I guess I'm wondering, what, if anything, can the White House and the MAGA movement do to move her along?
Well, I think that's the big question, is that I say this as someone who likes Casey and who thinks that she'd do a good job. But I will say that part of the problem is I don't think that the MAGA movement is squarely behind her. I mean, a lot of the leaders in it are, but there's a lot of people who have questions about her past statements on vaccines and other issues that they believe are core to MAGA. So again, I say this as someone who believes she'd be good at this, who's a fan of what she has done and a lot of the issues that she's brought. Her book, Good Energy, that she wrote with her brother Callie, is phenomenal. So I say this as a fan of hers. They need to get that MAGA movement, to your point, even more fired up and saying, because I don't get the sense that it's sort of like a wave, not a tidal wave, and it needs to be a tidal wave. The White House needs to feel that as well.
It's funny you say that, though, because I actually wonder if like if there was something written about how some in MAGA don't like her, maybe that actually helps her with Senate Republicans. I don't know. What is the criticism? What is
because the problem is, if you go look at the stories that came out after her hearing, she was, to use the word wishy-washy, I think, was some of the, like, she wouldn't commit either way. And that's the problem, is that people who don't think that she was strong on vaccines in particular are like, see, she's not there. And then people who are anti her, like a Bill Cassidy or whatever, are like,
the vaccines.
She won't back her previous statements. So she's in this, I get it. She's in a very tough bind because of that. And that's the problem, is that neither side is willing to say, see, she's with us. So she could probably win over the Cassidys of the world if she said, yes, I support this. She would do so at the detriment of, I think, a lot of MAGA support.
And but maybe they would want her to say it to get confirmed.
Well, but you can't.
I mean, look.
I mean, RFK kind of did. Let's be honest.
Well, but so here's the problem. You have the Surgeon General and you have the CDC head, right? I think the question is, RFK is becoming more and more unpopular. The White House knows it. So they don't want to lose them, because you need those. You can't. We just talked about your coalition problems. You cannot afford to lose RFK. But it sounds like RFK and the White House can't agree on a CDC head over vaccines. They now don't want to lean in to make the push on the Surgeon General nomination. It's like, this goes to everything else. The agenda.
They haven't said they're not going to lean in for her. In fact, that they have encouraged people to lean on the Hill. I don't know how much they are leaning on the Hill for her. But
Can I make one quick point, though?
They're letting her hang.
The just point of clarification: the polling that has come out in at least multiple polls that I've seen is that RFK is very popular within MAGA. Like, he has a net positive.
Yep.
I get he may not be positive in but within the
MAGA
world, he is very popular.
And I was going to say, Dan, you were listing all these things where they haven't picked a CDC head. They also haven't. I just pulled this from a story before the show. They also haven't indicated whether they're going to appeal that decision by the court that basically stopped the revised and shorter childhood vaccine schedule. Remember that a few weeks ago, we were wondering, what's the administration going to do? Well, they haven't said. So they're definitely pushing pause on that. So, okay, well, we'll continue to watch this. Actually, one other question, Dan, for you. Is there any way that Casey Means could get a Democrat to vote for her? They can only lose 3 Republicans.
Because vaccines are the RFK vaccine stance is so unpopular.
Yeah.
I don't even think John Fetterman would right now. I mean, it pulls off the charts. Look, again, you can say, Dan, you're a partisan. The White House own data says it, which is why we just had this conversation. If their data showed that I am wrong, folks, they'd be leaning in with everything they have. They're paralyzed, or they're trying to figure out a solution that they can finesse to keep the base happy, because Sean is right. But they know on the other side of the coin, it's a loser.
Yeah. Real test of RFK's power, who they pick for CDC. It will be somebody close to him. Will it be someone in the White House?
I'm not so sure. I'll be honest. I wouldn't, I know that actually Jay Bhattacharya, who's been acting, people are very comfortable with Jay. And I know that the job has been offered to a couple of people who have turned it down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jay Bhattacharya continue in this for some time.
Yeah.
Sean, let me ask you and Rachel. Democrats win one chamber, let's say the House. RFK still in that job this time next year?
100%.
Or does he say, I don't want to go to the Hill and have hearings with these blanks? I did 2 years.
No. RFK is a warrior when it comes to this. I mean, in terms of the movement and what he wants to accomplish, I think he is a full 4 year.
All right, just one other question. JD Vance, lock arms or a little bit of distance?
Lock arms.
I think pretty much lock arms.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. No, I think so.
Okay.
Vance seems to have friendships with people from all different, Tulsi Gabbard, for instance. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about redistricting. One of our favorite topics here. So after Democrats flipped this Palm Beach area state house seat yesterday, and another Florida State House seat.
Yep.
There are some Republicans who are starting to get a little angsty about redistricting. Just a reminder for watchers, I mean, DeSantis has called this special session in April to look at redistricting. The Republicans currently have a 22-8 advantage in the congressional map. DeSantis wants to redraw that to give Republicans 5 more seats. But now you have some Republicans who are worried that, okay, if you do that, you water down some of those red districts. Maybe you put incumbents at risk. Sean, knowing what you do about the governor, do you think he can wrangle these guys pretty easily? You think it's going to be, they'll be able to do this, or are the recent defeats going to, trip up this effort?
So remember, even at his height, Governor DeSantis, Florida is very unique because of the way the law reads, is that you're not allowed to redistrict for purely political reasons,
right?
But you can redistrict because you want to make districts more compact, and because it's all nomenclature, really. It's silly. But the problem is that DeSantis tried this before, and you've got both the Speaker of the House and, more importantly, the Senate President that aren't entirely on board with the timing and the process. I don't feel very bullish about this, to be honest with you. I think there is a potential for 5 seats. I think everybody kind of agrees, but for different reasons, right? In other words, I don't think you're going to get alignment on when it should happen and how it should happen. And this is going to be a problem. The last time they did this, the map is actually, as much as it was beneficial to Republicans, it was a compromise map where DeSantis got a certain district, and then Democrats carved out some stuff down. And I mean, not Democrats, but Senate Republicans in the legislature got something. So it was almost like a north-south split in Florida. I just don't see it happening again. And unfortunately, I think our own team infighting is going to be the downfall of us.
Yeah, really interesting.
But I will say one last thing. This goes back to what Dan said. If we're going to have redistricting in Florida, which is a must right now, we cannot. I mean, I actually am fully on board, considering what's going on in Virginia, that if we want to have, that would be 5 seats. That gives us a much better cushion right now. In order for this to do it, this is where I think Dan's comment before makes sense. The president of the United States must say, Florida, do it, and tell the state Senate president and tell the Florida speaker, do it, and do what DeSantis says and do it how he says it.
But I was going to say the state president should say that, or the president of the United States?
No, president of the United States needs to tell the Senate president.
Won't that cause legal problems though if he does that?
No. They have
There's
every right.
Redistricting is about
somebody in the administration and Trump political orbit was telling me that they have to be like very careful, basically, about how they
like
message
I said, the law is that it cannot be for purely political reasons.
Right.
So the Supreme Court in Florida was largely, I think it's almost entirely now appointed by DeSantis. So the challenge would go to those folks, and as long as they don't say it, the president can say whatever the heck he wants.
See, that's not what I've been told, like that they are.
And also,
I think that's
they could be wrong, but I have been told
but just
that there's a concern that if they weigh in too much, that it could be used
even if it's entirely true.
Yeah,
there are ways to make your will known behind the scenes.
Oh, for sure, no doubt, and I'm sure they are. Definitely sure they are.
I think that is trying to find a way to get to know for them, because you don't want to own it if it's not successful. Trump doesn't want to lose. It's a perception that, hey, he leaned into it and he lost.
That's Indiana over again.
I mean, and the challenge is, look, for everyone who doesn't know, the way you do redistricting is you model what you think the vote, will be in the new district, and you're taking out historical voters from one district that, let's say, were Republicans, and you're shoving them into another district. The problem is you have Republicans in Florida now who are starting to say, wait a second, you're going to take some from my district and expose me.
Oh, no, Dan, I got to be honest. It's not the delegation that's the problem.
Well, that's not according to Pete. The ones down in Miami-Dade are getting, and Broward are getting a little nervous that you're pulling from us to send into other areas.
I didn't. Yeah. By and large, the members that I've talked to are fine with it. But, Carla Jimenez and Maria. No, not Ana Paulina. She's West Coast, but I think Maria Salazar and Carlos Jimenez and Mario Diaz-Balart might be a little bit more concerned about diluting their district. But let's
move to Virginia. Dan, the little reporter here himself from yesterday in his Substack had some good sort of nuggets about the politics with Spanberger and redistricting. There is a story. Let's see. this morning. I think we have an element we can pull up. Abigail Spanberger faces a national test with Virginia redistricting. Basically, some Democrats are concerned that they might actually lose this push on April 21st, and they are pushing the governor to get involved more. Dan, just give us a little flavor of your Substack, which, talks about some of the local politics on this.
Yeah. So, I mean, just so people know, the three of us kind of text before the show to figure out what we want to talk about. But because it's early in the morning, you don't have time necessarily to get feedback from other people on a story, right? So sometimes they're up and they respond. So after the show yesterday, I had a few conversations with people who know Virginia very well. And I think there is nervousness about this. People think it will pass, but it's not a slam dunk. It's going to pass. And I think the frustration with Spanberger, the best line that I heard was somebody who said that she is kind of like Barack Obama in his first year in office, which is she doesn't really understand executive power. She is somewhat aloof and somewhat detached. But Obama had Rahm Emanuel, David Plouffe, and David Axelrod, who behind the scenes knew how to kind of threaten people and keep the ship moving forward. She has a team from Washington, D.C., from her congressional office running Richmond who don't know what they're doing. And so the fear is on redistricting and other things. She is just not a leader right now. And apparently she didn't believe in this map. She wanted to go with more of an 8-3 map, not a 10-1 map. Yeah. But some people in the state Senate and people in, Hakeem Jeffries pushed her and she was like, okay.
Well, Louise Lucas in the Senate is a force to be reckoned with. She's been there forever, and she made it very clear what she wanted and jammed it. But look, I will say this. I feel that I get the same nervousness, but it's the funniest part about this is Democrats have spent well over $20 million. You can't turn on TV or a digital ad without seeing Obama and now Spanberger. I mean, whether it's a device, they're spending a lot of money on the ground. I was driving through Northern Virginia yesterday, and there's signs up everywhere to vote yes. She's got billboards up again. But they are really running a solid campaign, and the Republicans don't have any real opposition, nothing. So the idea that they might lose this when Republicans are sitting on their hands doing nothing, and it's just literally nothing. Is a real testament to how bad this campaign is going to potentially backfire. If Abigail Spanberger loses this after they threw $25 to $30 million to the Republican zero, this will be a huge backlash, and it will just show this is the problem. We've talked about this in the past. If you overreach, that's the problem. And I think what's happening is Democrats went too far. If Spanberger probably was right instinctively, 8-3 might not have been bad. You're talking about 5 districts in Virginia that will now emanate from Fairfax County and reach down to Southern Virginia to represent them. The people in Bristol and do not want someone in Fairfax County representing them, right?
Sean, would you agree that Virginia is just not a hyper-partisan state? Like in either direction, it is that old, it may be drifting, but traditionally success in Virginia in either party was don't let your base get out of control, make it a business-friendly state, socially conservative, kind of right of center, but nothing too extreme. No. And when either party has started getting out of that lane, they historically lose. And Spanberger runs the risk by not being a leader and letting the extreme elements of the party run a little wild of having our brand tip over because they're banking on the fact it's anti-Trump. But at some point, Trump's not on the ballot. And that becomes a problem when it's about you.
Well, also, as I pointed out when we played the ad the other day, it's also just patently not true, right? They're talking about something being temporary and restoring fairness. And I think Virginians are looking at it and saying, so if we are 6-5 right now, Democrats have the majority of congressional seats, and you think 10-1 is
Let's take
fair?
Away all the Republicans'
right.
voices.
They've jumped the shark. And I think the funny part is, left to her own devices, Spanberger probably would have come up with a better deal. And you're right, Dan. The way, if you look at the model, even Glenn Youngkin, he hardly was a champion of the MAGA movement or of the far right. He stayed barely to the right. He didn't, if you ask people an accomplishment of what Glenn Youngkin did, I don't know many people could do it. But Terry McAuliffe, Mark Warner, Tim Kaine as governors basically were Democrats that were business friendly to Northern Virginia. Yep. And I think this is where Spanberger, again, she doesn't have to run again. But her brand is now, this is what I find fascinating. As I said the other day, she's not even embracing it. If I were her, I would have said, fine, I'm going to become the woke person that runs to the left of everyone, and I plan a presidential race.
That's not
But
her
she's
at all.
not.
Yeah.
And it's like she has destroyed her brand because she's also letting everybody talk about the taxes, the gun grab that they just did. It's embarrassing. And she has literally let them run wild. The House of Delegates in Virginia is owning her.
Okay. I know Sean and Dan can talk about Spanberger for an hour, but we got to take some questions, guys. Let's pull some up here. Okay, from X, good morning, Victor. Has the Save America Act been properly articulated to the masses on the left? Well, that's a Dan question. On the left, not on the right.
Improperly.
As in, I take this as like, have Democrats articulated what the Save America Act is publicly enough to voters?
I don't know, because I just think the headlines are so dominated by everything else right now that I think our voter, look, I think, to be, Sean has said a version of this. If Trump opens his mouth, 45% of the country says it's going to be fantastic. And if Trump opens his mouth, 45% of the country is going to say, I hate it, just because Donald Trump said it. So I think this is one of those classic issues where if you said, hey, you have to have an ID, a federally approved ID to vote, and the federal government will pay to ensure that, you're not having to have hardship to grant, to get a copy of your birth certificate or a passport or whatever. I think most Democrats, if you took Trump's name off of it, would say, yeah, sure. Okay.
No, they wouldn't.
But they don't. It's almost like they haven't had to articulate a message on this, because it's just the headlines are all about Republicans eating their young on this.
Well, there's also, you just have to remember, for Democrats, there is that it doesn't take a lot to bring up the notion of poll taxes and other things to make it hard. And I know, Sean, I hear you, but I'm just saying, it doesn't take a lot for Democrats to throw that chum in the water for their own base to just put their, back up and say, I don't trust you.
See, I don't think this is the one issue. I don't think it has to do a lot with Trump. I think Democrats just firmly are in the camp of people who are not in this country illegally and don't want any measures taken. I mean, fundamentally, this is an easy give if you don't. And if there's an easy solution, they're not even countering it. Democrats aren't even saying, here's what I would do to support it. To your point, they're not even saying, if you paid for it, I'd do this. If you change this, I'd support it. They're just literally calling it Jim Crow 2.0 and undermining democracy. I mean, and by the way, most of them have said things in the past in support of voter ID. So it is such a hypocritical issue. I cannot believe that anyone can come to another conclusion that they fundamentally just understand that it undermines their agenda by having people have an ID.
Let's take another question. Okay, good morning, Republican lady. Question for Dan. Comments on, this is, I assume you mean Seth Moulton versus Markey, Massachusetts Senate primary.
Yeah, this is
we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, no, we haven't. And it's fascinating because when Moulton announced, it was this idea of like the generational, change in a state that tends to reward people who work their way up the ladder over decades. I reached out to some folks last night. It sounds like Markey is going to win this. It's kind of like, who was it? Which Kennedy? Sean, who ran?
The redheaded one. I know.
Not Joe. Was it Joe Kennedy? No.
Joe is redheaded.
Yeah. Anyway,
also has a very he's more of a ginger.
A third.
Yes, that ran and just didn't get anywhere because you're not getting to the left of Markey on a lot of issues. So the only thing you really have is to say he's too old, but Markey's argument is I'm effective. And so if you're arguing over who's the more effective Democrat, it's hard to take an incumbent out. And so I don't see any way that this changes. So
I will tell you that having spent summers in Rhode Island, the last time Markey was up, he actually had an ad where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came in and Markey gets his flank. That's a problem. And he made it very clear last time. He's done a good job of keeping that left flank in check. Yep. And so it's hard to attack him because he is politically astute. He had AOC come out very hard for him, very strong. So the problem is that where there's political atrophy, when these members forget who their base is and they lose touch with it, that's the issue. Markey is very in tune with that in Massachusetts. So I don't think he's going to have the same problem. It's Moulton, I think, misread the situation.
Yeah. By the way, just a little shout out to Republican lady. Her first name is Hope. And the reason I know this is she responds to my Substack with grammatical corrections.
Oh, I've gotten a couple too, actually.
I appreciate that.
Oh, I hope she doesn't read mine.
I really do. And I've gone back and forth with her now for, months on stuff. Again, I love it. And she's like, by the way, I'm Republican lady. I said, oh my God. Okay.
Love that. The famous Republican lady.
Yes.
I think her correction on mine, if I'm not mistaken, was loathe. E versus no E at the end, anyway. So yes, we appreciate your feedback. We appreciate all your guys' feedback. So
I confused lose and loose. Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, I could spend an entire show talking about my screw up. So
yeah, I might be a journalist, but my grammar has always been.
Hope you should be an editor.
A little questionable. Let's be honest. Thank gosh for spell check. Okay, let's take another question. Oh wait. Okay, we'll take one more. Here we go. All right, question. Here in Southern California, gas has gone from $3.85 to $6.15 in 3 weeks, with oil only going up $20 a barrel. If oil fell on that amount tomorrow, it will take a year to go back down. Why? What's that saying? Somebody was saying this. Somebody on NPR was saying this the other day. Gas prices are up like a rocket ship, like a feather.
So not entirely. So I had an economist on my show on Friday and asked the same question. Why? Yeah. And the answer was he actually he explained it much better than I will now, but basically said, if you actually look at the escalation of prices, it is a lagging thing, right? In other words, they use what they've got. It goes up slower than you probably think because of what the price of oil is, and it'll go down probably even slower. I don't think it'll take a year, but it's not going to happen overnight. So if we open the Strait of Hormuz, right, you got to get all those tankers. It's got to get in the pipeline. It's got to go to the refineries. So it takes a little while, probably goes up a little quicker than it does come down.
$6.15.
Yeah, when I was in LA and I had to pick up the rental car, I almost fell out of my chair when I pulled up there in Westwood. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's real.
I just paid, I think $3.99 here in Virginia
I think they said it's likely to pass $4 in the next few days, AAA nationally.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be a big, big problem for the president. Okay, well, we are at time, guys. Sean, Thursday panel day.
Wow, look at that. Yeah, Thursday panel. Emily Sturge, Jill Savage, and Stephen Gardner join us. So much to break down today. I'm excited. We did do a panel with you guys, but it's been fun.
That would be fun.
I know. So much to talk about today. All right, we'll put it on my list.
Love that. Okay, guys, if you're in DC, maybe go see the cherry blossoms, but only if you have many hours to kill and you don't have to be somewhere fast. Anyway, happy Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday at 8:30.